Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadip Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari.
Nago Gopinath Sham Kundradha Kunidhi Govardhana ki jai.
Shall we just jump in?
Yes, Maharaj, I think we can just go right ahead. We're on 1:19:33. Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to all. Obeisances to Purushartha Prabhu, and thank you all for being here. If you have a name like iPhone, you might want to change it to something more personal. Open your participants, click on participants, put your cursor over your name, and rename yourself, or stay anonymous if you prefer. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. The Parikshit Maharaj has welcomed or is welcoming Shukadev Goswami, who has appeared while the sages are talking about what the king should do. Someone has one idea, someone has another idea, and now Shukadev Goswami has come and is being received. Yesham sangsparanat punksam sadya shudhyanti vayagriha kim punar darshana sparsha pada shochan socha sanadipi. Simply by our remembering you, our houses become instantly sanctified. And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet, and offering you a seat in our home. The sadhya shudhyanti, by remembering a person like Sukadev Goswami, one is at once purified, shudhyanti. Then what to speak of seeing him, touching him, washing his lotus feet. Prabhupada talks in the purport about how the saints purify the holy places where people come and leave their sins behind. And he says that the sadhus appear in the homes of worldly people, and in that way also their sins are neutralized. The saintly persons have no self-interest with the householders. They only go to purify their homes. And therefore a householder should be very careful not to dishonor a saintly person who comes. Any questions here? Pretty straightforward. This is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. It's a well-known verse. Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. The value of the association of a saintly person is so great. Elsewhere it's said that the Ganges, bathing in the Ganges purifies one gradually. But the association of a saintly person, even a moment's association, can bring all perfection. Sanidhyat te mahayogin patakani mahantyapi sadyo nashanti vaipungsam vishnuriva suretaraha. Just as an atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. Again, sadhyo, right away, the sins of even a sinful person are even mahanti, great sins, invulnerable sins, are vanquished. And Prabhupada says there are two classes of men, the devotees and the atheists, Vishnu Bhakta Smita Daiva, Asuras Tadviparyayo. And the demons can't stay where Vishnu is present, where his holy name, his form, his activities are there. The demons can't stay. Ghosts can't stay where a saintly devotee is present, and therefore one should associate only with some saintly persons, saintly devotees, so that worldly demons and ghosts cannot exert their sinister influence. Okay, anything here? Okay. Api me Bhagavan Prita Krishna Pandu Sutta Priyaha Paitra Svaseya Prityartam Tadgotrasyati Tadgotrasyata Bandhavaha. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is very dear to the sons of King Pandu, has accepted me as one of those relatives just to please his great cousins and brothers. So the Parikshit Maharaj essentially says that you've come because Krishna has sent you. And Krishna has sent you not because of any credit of mine, but because I'm the descendant of the Pandavas with whom you're intimately related. You're very dear to the Pandavas, and therefore you've come to see me. Or rather, the Lord is very dear to the Pandavas, so he sent you to see me. This cousins and brothers, by the way, is an editorial artifact. Prabhupada said cousin brothers. Cousin brothers is a common term in India, and exactly what it means is different depending on whom you talk with. Some people will say, well, it means a cousin who's this or a cousin who's that. But the conclusion is, as far as I can understand, that it's an intimate cousin. It's a cousin who's like a brother. That's the idea. It's not really cousins and brothers. It's cousin brothers, right?
Yeah, it's actually more like when you use the term brother among Indians, we say bhai, and bhai includes cousins. So then if you want to distinguish that, which bhai, you really mean like you're born from the same mother bhai or a cousin bhai, cousin brother. You're talking about cousin brother or an actual biological brother. Because
Right.
brother includes everybody. And so you have to distinguish later on which one do you mean? That's where it comes from, because we're that term is more inclusive, it's more intimate, it's more loving. That's the idea.
Cousin brother, right? Thank you. Yeah, by everybody's by, right? The purport is quite instructive. A pure and exclusive devotee of the Lord serves his family interest more dexterously than others who are attached to illusory family affairs. So this is a common complaint that the devotees are more interested in the Lord than in their families, and you should be serving your parents, you should be serving your family members. And here Prabhupada says that the devotee serves the family interest more dexterously, more effectively than others who are attached to illusory family affairs. Illusory family affairs, of course, is a large topic, but it means family life based on the bodily concept and all that goes with it. Generally, people are attached to family matters, and the whole economic impetus of human society is moving under the influence of family affection. People work to support their families. Prabhupada cited someplace that the employers, for the interview, they want to know whether you're married, because if you're married, then you'll work. If you're not married, you can at any time say, well, had enough of this. But if you're married, then you'll want to keep working. So the family life is the impetus for work, and not only for work, but not only maintaining, but expanding. When we're in family life, then we want home improvements, we want so many different things. So human life is, human society is moving under the influence of family affection. You go to the airport, and if you still want to, but anyway, when we were going through the airports, we would sometimes see these places that sell, stuff like, caps from Chicago or whatever it is, if it's O'Hare, and there's always stuff, for your kids, for your wife, reminding you that when you get there, they're going to expect something from you, or that you can please them. So this is family life. Moving under the influence of family affection, such deluded persons have no information that one can render better service to the family by becoming a devotee of the Lord. The Lord gives special protection to the family members and descendants of a devotee, even though such members are themselves non-devotees. Maharaj Prahlad was a great devotee of the Lord, but his father Hiranyakashipu was a great atheist and declared enemy of the Lord. But despite all this, Hiranyakashipu was awarded salvation due to his being the father of Maharaj Prahlad. So you want me to serve my family, but I'm serving my family better by serving Krishna. You're thinking that I'm neglecting the family. I'm not neglecting the family. I'm doing the best service for the family by being engaged in Krishna's service. The Lord is so kind that he gives all protection to the family members of his devotee, and thus the devotee has no need to bother about his family members, even if one leaves such family members aside to discharge devotional service. So there's Prabhupada's conclusion that even if I don't take care of them, Krishna will take care of them. It's I don't know if the Grasta Vision team wants to hear this, but this is what Prabhupada's saying, that even if you leave your family members for the sake of devotional service, Krishna is so pleased with a pure and exclusive devotee that he takes special care of the family. Maharaj Yudhisthira and his brothers were the sons of Kunti, the paternal aunt of Lord Krishna, and Maharaj Parikshit admits the patronage of Lord Krishna because of his being the only grandson of the great Pandavas. Any questions here, comments?
I have a comment, Maharaj. It's a very interesting use of punctuation. From my reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, I've noticed he doesn't use exclamation points very regularly. And here we see the use of an exclamation point. It's very interesting. And it's like the Lord gives special protection to the family members and descendants of a devotee, even though such members are themselves non-devotees. Exclamation point, gasp, It's so interesting. So I just thought that, that you might think, oh, but what if the family members are non-devotees or something? Doesn't matter. That's the point of the exclamation mark there. And
yes.
I just find it very fascinating, his use of that particular punctuation to highlight that point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
we got an external, he's turning it off. Just hold the off button in. Right, sorry. So this idea of leaving aside the family to execute devotional service, I agree, but so many devotees have started families with other devotees and given birth to children who ostensibly are going to be devotees if they aren't already. And my question is that I can understand if you're coming from a materialistic background that, you know, and you want to pursue spiritual life, that you can leave aside the family members. But we've seen instances of devotees leaving aside family members, presumably to practice devotional service. My question is, if you're going to start a family with a devotee wife or a devotee husband and have devotee children, shouldn't you finish the job and not leave it aside? And I understand sannyas is, you know, 20, 30 years down the road, but we've seen situations earlier where, you know, people were taking sannyas early on in ISKCON and leaving aside. So my question, why bother to get married at all and to a devotee if you're not going to finish the job?
That's, from one point of view, your one line there, why bother at all, is key. Why get started on all this? I was just talking to one devotee who's sannyasi, in fact, and you know, saying he's like advising people, don't get into it because there's so much trouble. That we were talking about a particular circumstance, so much trouble associated with it. So our standing advice to people, my standing advice is, if you can avoid it, and it was Prabhupada's standing advice also, if you can avoid it, avoid it. It's distracting, entangling, time-consuming, troublesome. Better to avoid it altogether. But then we come to your question. You haven't avoided it. You've gotten into family life. Now, isn't it irresponsible, especially if your family life is family life with devotees? Isn't it irresponsible to leave that aside? And there are two answers. One is yes, and one is no. Yes, it's irresponsible, and Prabhupada sometimes would rebuke overeager family renouncers, those who would, you know, jump into family life on Tuesday and then Friday they want to take sannyas, and Prabhupada would, you know, rebuke them for being whimsical, for being irresponsible, and advise them to perform their duty in Krishna consciousness. So that's one answer. The other answer is that for the service of the Lord, one can leave aside even devotee family members. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. His wife was a devotee, his mother was a devotee, and, you know, extreme case, his mother was elderly and he was the only son, and she was a widow. His wife was a young girl, and still he left. And there are other such examples of devotees who've left aside their devotee families for a higher purpose. Just as my example would be that, you know, during the war, take especially, you know, a place like Britain where they were under attack, or any country that's under threat. If a man kisses his wife goodbye and goes off to fight for the country, because that takes precedence. If the country goes down, then everything goes down, and no one criticizes. No one says, "Oh, he left his wife and baby and went to fight in a foreign war or a domestic war." Everybody will say, "Yes, he's a hero. He's a great man." But if you do that for Krishna, then they'll all say, "Just see, irresponsible. This is what this religion does to you." So it's not to be done whimsically, but it can be done. And Prabhupada indicates that here.
Follow question. There's a phenomenon we see sometimes of people who have been renounced for their whole Krishna conscious career, so to speak, and then they're in their 40s or 50s, and suddenly they married. And on one level, like you say, why bother? It's especially at that late stage. And another level, getting older myself, I think, I have a partner, I have a husband, that's support. And I can't imagine being older, in my 50s, my 60s, my 70s, without having some kind of support. And it just seems like in our society, things are so kind of disconnected that older people, for whatever reason, older devotees maybe get married because they need some kind of support. I don't really know all the details of it, but I do know that there's a phenomenon of seeing devotees who have been renounced for a while, or single at least, and then they get married. And I just wondered if you felt like addressing that, or maybe it's too big of a topic for right now.
Well, of course, a single man is always free to marry if he wishes. Truly renounced person, a sannyasi, should never do that. But a person who's just single, who's Brahma Cherry, or any man can marry. But why? My thought would be, why should a man do that? If you want companionship, friends are better than wives. And the human life is meant for devoting ourselves to Krishna. And if one sticks it out, if one puts up with the inconvenience, the insecurity, the occasional loneliness, or whatever you have, for the sake of Krishna consciousness, or by Krishna consciousness, then one's in a better position. Prabhupada's, there's no advice in Vedic literature or in Prabhupada's writings that, when you get old, then get married again. It's not advisable. For why should we do that? So people do, and I don't want to bash anyone, but this is not suggested. The suggestion is that when you're older, then get freed from the association of woman. That's the standard. That's what Varnashram is leading us toward, to give up the association of family life for the association of Krishna, and for the service of the broader family of human society. So that's our advice, and one, that's our best course. Otherwise, one gets, when we should be getting freedom, we're voluntarily entering prison. Why should we do that? And for women, of course, it's understandable. Women are dependent by nature, and especially in old age, everyone develops that sort of, generally, needs become greater. Independence is harder to manage. But there's no recommendation in Vedic literature for marriage, especially for a woman who's been married, a woman who has children. There's no such recommendation. But as you said, I think you sort of touched upon it, that our social system today is very messed up, including even in ISKCON, we don't have the stable sort of social networks that are found in traditional Vedic culture. If you look at, by contrast, for example, the Amish, their family structure and their social structure is exceedingly strong. Exceedingly strong. Everybody knows where they are. Everyone knows where they're going to be. Everyone can depend upon this network to support them. And there, I'm choosing a sort of a sealed in sort of example, but there are other religious communities where they're much more mature in their ability and willingness to support all the members of their community. As Radhika Ramana Prabhu mentioned the other day, charity begins at home. And therefore, practically every mature religious community has arrangements for taking care of orphans, widows, old people, sick people, and so on. And they give that priority, a kind of priority, which is why I've objected so many times to charitable work directed toward the poor and so on, when we aren't taking care of our own people or aren't equipped to take care of our own people. So that's something that needs development. Needs development. Does that address your questions?
I think so. I think so. I think, maybe my question is coming from a personal place, wondering what's going to, my future and whatever. But I was also drill, I guess the real issue is the social situation and how people feel they need to get married because they don't have any.
I was also going to say that,
support.
I'd sort of chalked out the sense of social responsibilities and what the society of devotees or any religious society should be doing. On the other hand, individually, we should have that confidence that Krishna will protect me, Krishna will maintain me. Rakshasyatiti vishvaso, gopritve varanam tata. This is surrender, that Krishna will, he's feeding everybody else, he's taking care of everybody else, he'll take care of me. I don't have to flip. I don't have to do something drastic or panic because who's going to maintain me? And we see that devotees who have that confidence, who have that conviction that Krishna will maintain me, do in fact get maintained by Krishna. That Krishna sees this person is depending on me, then I have to pull through for them. I have to see to their welfare. So that's the stronger position. That's the recommended position. That when there's some difficulties, some insecurities, some loneliness, some feeling of incompleteness, well, we are incomplete. But it's not because I'm lacking a family, it's because I'm lacking my eternal relationship with Krishna. Otherwise, people are in family life and feeling incomplete. The complete feeling of completeness and feeling of complete protection actually comes when we surrender to Krishna, when we depend on Krishna. So that's the real thing. And then by that dependence on Krishna, then you solve your problem permanently because you go back to Godhead, and then you don't have to worry about who will feed me, who will take care of me. Otherwise, you have to come back again and face the same problems. So this is the path recommended for the devotees, to develop that understanding that why will Krishna not protect me? I just have to carry on, and somehow or other, everything will be there. Is that all right? Okay. There's some questions that have.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. My question is regarding when you speak about panic.
Yes.
What in the case where maybe the wife is more advanced than the husband, and the wife feels that the husband may be, pulling or slowing down her spiritual growth. Should the wife then separate and say, you know, I feel I'll be, you know, or in this situation, what happens? Or she should, what
She
happens?
should carry on. That's her duty. Unless the husband is terribly fallen, which is explicitly mentioned in Bhagavatam, she should carry on. The husband may be advanced or not advanced, but she should continue in her prescribed duty, just like your kids. They may be good kids or bad kids, but if you don't say, well, I got these bad kids, just chuck them and try again. It's our duty. So the duty of a woman is to serve the husband, and he may be advanced or less advanced. It may be, so Prabhupada gave the example of his sister. Her husband was not at all to the standard. He would drink or who knows what, but she went on serving him. And if someone came to the home and he was out, breaking the regulative principles, as we say, she'd never say, my husband's out drinking or something. She'd just say, my husband's out, not here right now. She would never complain. And later, by her saintly qualities, the husband also came to the standard. So that's the course recommended. Otherwise, we can start what's the word? What are those games? Pinball, where you start ricocheting. Well, this husband's not very advanced. I should escape and a better situation for Krishna consciousness, and I get married again. And this husband's, I thought he was this, but he's that, and then ricochet again. It's not at all recommended. The standard recommendation is serve your husband as long as he's not fallen. That's there in Bhagavatam. If a husband is fallen, then even then no divorce, but separation. And that meant in the Vedic culture generally that the girl would go live with her father or live with her elder brother's family, or like that.
So Maharaj, may I say something, please?
Of course.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada, thank you for speaking tonight. As Vrinda Devi spoke, and your answer, what is, I guess, the general overriding premise is it's male, male, male. She should serve the husband if he's fallen, but it shouldn't, when two...
It goes both ways. It's not that,
yes.
I thought the wife was going to be, a sweetie, and she turned out to be a witch, and so I'm going to ditch her and find one that I like. That's also equally irresponsible. This is what you got now. Just don't go looking to improve your material life by this arrangement, that arrangement, this arrangement. I tried this, I'm going to try that. You take what you've gotten and be Krishna conscious. So it works. It goes both ways. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Let's see. All right, we have several things in the chat box. Gurudas says, when one takes to Krishna consciousness and becomes initiated, karma disappears, and Krishna takes special care of that devotee. I've heard the expression Krishna karma, but we don't hear that Krishna takes the karma of a non-devotee. So it's very interesting to hear that he protects them, idly wondering what form that protection takes. Is it similar or different than the promise Krishna makes to make generations of a pure devotee's family back to Godhead? Okay, let's see if I understand it. So Krishna takes the karma of a devotee. Prabhupada said practically, reduces it practically to nothing. There's something will still be there, but not very important. So for the non-devotee, what does he do? Of course, that's up to Krishna. He gave Hiranyakashipu liberation, and who knows what he may do for a family member. It's I don't know of a specific place where he says, "I'll do this" or "I'll do that," but certainly the family is blessed by the presence of a devotee, and Krishna gives special concession, special care. I don't think I know more than that. Anyone else want to throw something in on that?
Well,
Okay.
Maharaj,
Yes.
Hare Krishna. I was just interested in that particular wording. Krishna protects the family member in the purport.
Yes.
Yeah, so he says Krishna protects the family member, and I was just wondering about that word protection, what it involved.
Gives special protection to the family members in the sentence of a devotee. We see that even, who is that demon? Banasura, because he was just a demon, but because he was the descendant of Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, he got, when Krishna fought with him, he cut off all 1,000 of his arms except 4. Essentially gave him Sarupya Mukti, gave him the form of like his own, and didn't kill him. So Krishna gives special concessions. Bali Maharaj also was got special blessings because he was the descendant of Prahlad Maharaj. So these things can happen. Otherwise, exactly how Krishna will step in, that we have to see.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Krishna Rupa, although the advice is that if you can avoid marriage, you should, does this advice hold true to an equal extent for women? From what I've heard from many devotees, it seems that female devotees are not encouraged to choose to be celibate for life. It seems that they are not given the freedom to choose this, even if they feel it would be better for their Krishna consciousness. Well, let's start at the end. They're free to do that, and there are examples of women in our history and in our society who have done that. So there's always free choice. It's not that there's compulsion or we send the police and make sure you get married. But generally, women will not be happy on their own, fending for themselves. And therefore, Prabhupada said that all the women should get married and all the men should remain brahmachari, which of course is contradictory, but Prabhupada knew it was contradictory. Men are supposed to be stronger and therefore able to take to a renounced life, whereas women are naturally more wired for family, children, and so on. So generally, the women are all encouraged to marry, and the men are encouraged to avoid marriage. Does that answer the question? Anything else to throw in there? Okay. I find this question interesting, Mitravinda says. It seems to be devoid of free will. I'm not sure exactly what goes on in India. It's a choice. However, as a woman may get older, she may feel the desire to get married or not. Well, what goes on in India, we have many Indian members here, but generally everybody's forced. If you're a girl, they force you to get married. If you're a boy, they force you to get married. Just try to become a brahmachari in ISKCON in India and see what your parents, how your parents respond. It's absolutely mandatory, and for you to, and not only that, but it's combined with a culture where the respect for one's parents is extreme, or not extreme, but strong, and it's a pillar of character, of a pillar of society. So your father or your mother, especially, they're asking you to get married, or you know, then for you to disobey them is like unthinkable, practically, or very difficult. Whereas in America, your mom wants you to do something, your dad wants you to do something. It's like, okay, thanks for the good word, and everybody's got their own life. You know what I mean? So in America, everybody just does what they want. That's the standard. Honor your mother and your father means you send them a card on their birthday, but in India, the culture is very strong that the parents' wishes have to be treated with so much deference, so much respect. And what do they wish? They wish you to get married, always, practically speaking. And of course, now it's changed. It used to be when you were like a young girl, they wanted you to get married. Now they want you to go to college and finish your, excuse me? Now they want you to go to college and complete your degree and then get married, which is problematic, and we won't get into all of that, I don't think. But still, and then once the girl's been to college, then the wishes of her parents become secondary, or considerably weaker influence, and so many problems can come from that. But there's a strong pressure, very strong pressure, for the young man and young woman to be married, from the parents, from the uncles, from the aunts, from the whole family. These are all, all respectable people. They're all pushing, and it's not out of meanness. It's out of experience and out of good wishes. They know that just as the parents know that the child should go to school. The child should, it's not time to be playing all the time anymore. It's time to start your education, because they know that from education, so many things come. So they know that now the girl is reaching the age when she should be married, and they begin working on the project. It's not the girl's project; it's really the father's project, and they're actively on the case, so that the girl will be happy, so that she'll be, as they say, settled up. She won't have to worry, where do I find a husband? Where do I go? What should I do? And then so many compromising situations. The parents work it out, and so you're settled. So it's out of good wishes, and out of good wishes similarly for the son, with the general idea that son will be married, he'll be happy, get a suitable girl, and his problems are solved. So that's the general picture. But okay, so there is a choice, but in India, it's particularly, it's limited in that way. Or you have a choice, you can defy. Everyone has free will, just like you have a choice. You want to walk against the red light, you can do it. You want to rob from the bank, you can do it. But you do have free will. But how far do you want to take your free will? Even we have free will, all of us conditioned souls. We've grandly misused our free will by turning our backs on Krishna. We can do it. But will it make us happy? No. So generally, this system that the parents arrange for the marriage of the son and daughter is good for them. It's a duty of the parents. And by going along with this arrangement, you get stable family life that's happy as far as happiness is available in the family context. So that's the summary there. A woman may get older, she may feel the desire to get married or not. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by older, Mitravinda. If you mean older, like 18, 20, 22, yeah, she may or may not feel desire to get married. But generally also the parents see that, you know, she's 18 now, she's thinking, I don't want to get married, but she'll think about getting married when she's like 25 or something. It'll be a harder sell. Or if she's 25, she's not thinking about getting married. So the parents are starting to worry about, not starting, they are worrying about her because they know that there's a sort of window of opportunity there when the time is most suitable for marriage, when a girl is most attractive for marriage. You know, the shine wears off as a woman ages. So the parents look at it and say she should be, even the parents look at it and at puberty, they think she should be married. Now, you know, we look and we say, okay, she's nearing the end of her, she's just about gotten her degree, she should get married. But the traditional system is that by the time she reaches puberty, she should have a husband. Why? So that she'll have no inconvenience. Everything will be sort of a smooth she'll have smooth progress in life and be taken care of. Now, if by older you mean older, like 40, 50, 60, then marriage is not at all recommended. This is a kind of very unusual thing, and especially married again and again. That's better. You've reached this age, whatever it is, 40, 50, 60, better to serve Krishna than to suddenly start looking for a happy arrangement in illusory life. Is that okay? And then, okay, Mitravinda has more here. Devotees, words by Jayadvaita Swami. Devotees who have the confidence that Krishna may protect them are in fact maintained by Krishna. Faith. Krishna in fact maintains, yes. My camera angle has slipped, okay. Like that, right? Okay. It's really because the desk is lower than I am.
Maharaj, I had one question.
Okay. Gopal, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my obeisances. Thank you very much for your very wonderful classes. It's really transformed our life just hearing your classes 3 times a week. I'm sorry I haven't been able to participate because of the kids and things. We're noisy here sometimes. I had a quick question regarding the first point which you were discussing, which was the man leaving home at an early age. And you're mentioning, you gave the example of the soldier. We find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the Kurma Brahman wants to leave home after he meets Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya tells him, no, you stay home. You chant the holy name. And your service is not leaving home. And in fact, it's sometimes an easier path to leave home. Like Arjuna wants to become a mendicant, leave his occupational duty. So would it be correct to say that it's extremely rare in Kali Yuga that someone would be called to that duty of leaving home early? And if that's the case, should it be a requirement that it's based upon senior guidance? Because one may feel the inspiration, but it could just be the play of the mind. and it would be a very rare circumstance. Would that be correct?
All good points. The yes, he did certainly did say that to the Kurma Brahmin. He said, you know, I don't want to hear that again. You should just chant Hare Krishna and stay at home. He even told Raghunath Das that you stay at home, don't be a monkey vairagi, just outwardly be a pound, shilling, pence man, and inwardly you do your bhajan. But then, of course, Raghunath Das left household life, left his young wife and his family, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu apparently. But I think you're right that it is because that strong conviction that I'm really going to serve Krishna and do something is not a small thing. So instead, we find that people up and leave, and then they get into the same thing again. They go back to, you know, they get involved with another woman and another family. So yes, it is rare and not generally recommended. There's a comment that Prabhupada of course made quite a number of young sannyasis, but then we saw that some of them found it very difficult to maintain sannyas, which should never be left. But under the circumstances, Prabhupada said, well, you know, sannyas is external. The main thing is to be Krishna conscious. But then there was one remark that was reported that Prabhupada said, my godbrothers are criticizing me for giving sannyas to young men. And they are right. Because he saw it was kind of an emergency measure. He needed sannyasis, and all he had was young men. So he did give young men sannyas. But that's, yes, it should be rare, because you don't want to go backwards. You don't want to go backwards. You don't want to take sannyas and then again slide back to family life. Things should not be done whimsically, and therefore your point that shouldn't there be senior consultation. Prabhupada had mentioned in regard, I think it's purport we've read or we're going to read, that Parikshit Maharaj took consultation from the sages. What should I do? I'm on the verge of death. What should I do? And Prabhupada says every important decision should involve consultation. That's so you're certainly right. And thank you for bringing up all these points, all very good points.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I'm sure your wife will find it reassuring that you've asked these questions also.
Maharaj, also, I was curious, within our movement, many very advanced devotees have different opinions as to how this, regarding this point which you had mentioned, that men are advised to stay single, but that's only if they can, then they are advised, or they're very encouraged, but they're encouraged, but still it will be rare. And the example that I'm thinking here, like I've heard from the disciples of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, that Bhakti Charu Maharaj will only allow his disciple to stay single if they really argue for it. You know, they're really convinced that they want to stay single, and if they you know, literally argue with him, then he'll concede and say, okay, you can stay. You're very convinced. You're very determined. Whereas you could say others have the viewpoint that no, just keep staying single as long as you can. There's an example of Prabhupada also of this, where he encouraged the devotee to continue staying Brahma Cherry, and then even if you're 40, when you absolutely cannot stay single any longer, then get married. Are both of those opinions correct, or how is that?
Well, for a start, the principle is not, the overriding principle is whether you should, not whether you should get it or not get married. The principle is that everyone should be Krishna conscious. That's our goal, and we always have to keep that in mind. Now, with that in mind, Prabhupada certainly encouraged his brahmachari. That's, history testifies to that unequivocally. He encouraged devotees to remain brahmachari. That was the preference. Now, I think it would be overstating it to say that he said remain brahmachari to, absolutely have to get, like if you're climbing the walls, then no, but Prabhupada would say something, language to the effect that if it's too inconvenient, then they can get married. Not that it's like, if it's either marriage or suicide, then choose marriage. But the strong preference, Prabhupada's strong encouragement was for remaining brahmachari. And he did encourage that. I can say there was one instance I can remember that Paramananda Prabhu joined along with his girlfriend at the time, I think, Satyabhama. And Paramananda was prepared to remain brahmachari. And Prabhupada said, "What's wrong? Don't you like her anymore?" So he saw that they were, a couple, and he got them duly married. So it's not that he was, what's the word, unreasonably strict on this, or pushing it to the, point of absolute ruin. Well, when it's impossible, then let them get married. But the default mode, I should say, Prabhupada's default mode was let them remain brahmachari. That was his position. Now there was, and rareness, that was the other thing. I think rareness is in part reflects the society. If the default expectation in the society is that, well, all men should get married, and if they don't want to get married, well, they'll get married anyway. It's inevitable, and it's extremely rare to find that special soul who can remain brahmachari, and so on and so on and so on. Well, in such a society, you might expect that brahmacharis will be more rare. And if, on the other hand, in the society, the encouragement is there for remaining brahmachari, and especially if things are arranged in such a way that it protects brahmacharis, then brahmacharis will be less rare. I know I lived for some time at Soho Street. Sort of, Soho Street's like a submarine, it's like packed with action there from the public and the devotees and men and women living there. So I was staying there for quite some time, and I was a sannyasi, but Bhagavad Ashray Prabhu, as my temple president, I saw that he was running interference for me. He would see to it that the women were, there was some distance there, whether it was women who were coming or women who were there. He helped keep a barrier in place. So that's what you do when you have brahmacharis. You want to protect them. You're not conspiring against them. How can we get this brahmachari married? It's inevitable that he'll get married. How can we? Then they'll be rare because the whole society is trying to gun them down. But if the whole society is encouraging them, then you'll have a different circumstance. And that means encourage, at every step. When they're young brahmacharis, when they're old brahmacharis, valuing them, engaging them, then your statistics may reflect that mood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're at 9:03, and there are other questions here. You might want to well, I'm going to take this one comment from Jayadvaita since I see it right in front of me and it's short. In ISKCON history, many times ladies who were happy simply serving were bullied into getting married. Glad those days are gone. Thank you, Jayadvaita. For the other questions that are here, if you cut and paste them and hold on to them, then we can next time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I could also try, I suppose, and cut and paste these, but it's easier if it's your question, cut and paste and hold it, and you can come back next time and we can try to respond. Okay, what's
Okay.
on the bill coming up? Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
All
It was very, very lively discussion and a lot of interest and interaction with the group today. Certainly, it's an important point in everyone's mind. What are we supposed to do? What are we not supposed to do? Did I do what I was supposed to do? Did I do it right? All kinds of questions. But in the end, like you said, Maharaj, what that matters is Krishna consciousness is the first priority and last priority always. And then everything else, we have to try our best with what Srila Prabhupada has given us and with what the senior devotees can guide us. So thank you so much. And this is a very important topic. So next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj will continue this lecture series as always. And we might be, maybe in just a few more sessions, might be finishing up on this first canto, Maharaj.
I have some ideas about that, but I don't want to run overtime with them.
Okay, we can discuss them, later next week then.
Yeah.
So this weekend, quite a full slate. We have 3 great speakers. Tomorrow we have 2 speakers. Tomorrow we have Kurma Prabhu from Australia. Kurma Prabhu is very famous for being a world-class chef, and he's also written an incredible book of Srila Prabhupada's pastimes in Australia and New Zealand. So he'll be narrating from his memories and Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. He's a really sweet devotee, and if you've seen his cooking videos, you'll see his personality is really amazing. So don't miss that. It's something tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami will speak on a classic Vaishnava text by King Kulashekar called Mukunda Mala Stotra. So looking forward to that tomorrow evening. And then on Sunday evening at 6 p.m. at a regular Sunday time is Amarendra Prabhu, who is always full of energy and presenting very lively pastime of the Lord. And this time the topic is going to be Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden rain cloud of mercy. So we have quite a nice lineup and wonderful speakers coming up next week as well. So thank you all very, very much for joining. If you would like, you can unmute yourself real quick and say a quick Haribol to Maharaj and quick good night if you like. And we will see you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jayadvaita Swami, Jai
Hare
Gauranga.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Jai Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Maharaj.
Hare
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Krishna Maharaj.
Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. So inspiring, thank you.
Maharaj, Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna.
I still remember meeting.
Hare
you,
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for your time. So nice.
I
So
still
nice.
remember- I still remember meeting you at Govardhan in 2008. Hare Krishna.
Ah,
It's a
Hare
fond
Krishna.
memory.
Krishna Maharaj, Vrinda, this is.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Good.
We can bring that.